The party's going on. Thank God it's Friday.
Now.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Realm presented by Pro Football Debate. I am your host, Allan, joined here with Adam, our resident Pro Football Debate writer. Any of your fantasy needs, Adam is generally writing about all of them over at profootballdebate.com. Make sure you go there and check those out. And then our in-house resident antagonist here for nothing more than to drive me insane, which he does a very good job of, Brandon, BPappy. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. What's happening? How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good. Hanging in, having a good night. Just preparing for tomorrow's exciting game, right? We've got Thursday night football, Giants taking on the 49ers. Yeah, that should be a riveting matchup. Let's jump into it, though. Let's talk about tomorrow night's matchup. Giants and 49ers fantasy implications abound. What are we paying attention to in this game tomorrow? Anything stand out to you guys? What do you got?
I mean, I'm not really interested, to be honest with you. I'm not going to stay up and watch it. But if there's one thing I would like to pay attention to, it's going to be the backfield of the Giants. Saquon's hurt. That sucks. He's a guy that we drafted early to be a consistent producer in our lineup. Who's gonna shake it out? I don't think he's being talked about right now, but I'm interested in seeing what Eric Gray can do. I mean, he's awful in pass protection, but maybe they're going to get him involved more. And then one thing that I am going to pay attention to is what's Paris Campbell's involvement in that offense. In the preseason and in training camp, he was taking snaps at running back. Are we going to see some Paris Campbell in the backfield? Is he a sneaky waiver wire ad that nobody's really talking about right now? That's what I'm paying attention to. As far as the Niners stardom, the Giants haven't got a defense.
Yeah, they're bad.
McCaffrey's going to run all over them. Start Ayuk, start Debo. The problem is it's probably going to be such a blowout that only one of those guys is going to have a good game. But I'm starting both of them.
Yeah, Eric Gray is an interesting guy to keep an eye on. Rookie running back out of Oklahoma. Probably not on very many rosters at all in redraft leagues, if any at all, really. You're going to be rostering Eric Gray maybe in dynasty leagues. You might have him on a taxi squad. I was getting Eric Gray a lot of times in like third, fourth round, fifth round for Eric Gray. I know he got a little bit of work in the preseason as a punt returner. He's kind of undersized, right? He's only like 5'9", 205, 210, something like that. Personally, I don't like the Giants backfield at all. I think Saquon Barkley had standalone value. I don't think he had value in that system. They got a run first quarterback. The O-line is one of the worst in all of football. Saquon was a fantasy relevant running back simply because of how talented and electric he was. Eric Gray is somebody to keep an eye on. If he can pop off, great. I don't think Matt Breida is the answer there at all. I'm rostering him. I'll grab him off of waivers. So if he pops off a game and I can flip him or something like that, then I'll do it. But I don't love Matt Breida there. So I don't love the Giants backfield in the least bit. I'll roster him just in case something crazy happens, but that's about it. Brandon, what do you think on that one?
Yeah, agreed. I think your boy Darren Waller could have a good game for the Giants. I look like one of the Giants receivers are standing up because they're going to have to pass the ball. They're going to be. I agree with Adam. I think it's going to be a blowout. But these things always happen, right? Someone's going to bust out. I think Daniel Jones could have a huge rushing game. That O-line's bad, and they have no back. It's going to be scrambling for his life. Yeah. He could have a huge. If I'm playing player props, I'm looking at his rushing line and probably going way over. So. He's garbage time stuff. Yeah, garbage line stuff. I think the same actually applies to the 49ers. I was going to say Elijah Mitchell might have a decent game in the backup role for the Niners because if they get out to a good lead week 3, they're going to kind of test some things with some other guys and not risk injury with like a CMC. So there could be I always get stuck in those situations where I see a blowout and I'll be like, oh yeah, Elijah Mitchell's going to score a ton of points, and then it'll be a close game or something crazy. So, but that could be a possibility. I just don't see that game being Thursday night games. Just always stink too. So
Yeah,
low scoring.
We've been blessed so far, but
this year they've been good. But
I actually really I hate to admit that I like the idea that Brandon just had, but I do kind of like the idea he had with the Elijah Mitchell play. If they can get out in front of the Giants early, there's no reason for San Francisco to push it, right? Let's sit McCaffrey potentially an entire second half if they can, get up, 21, 24 points in the first half. And we've seen a lot of injuries this week, right? So maybe you're on it. Maybe you got a roster. Maybe you were low on the waiver wire pickup. You couldn't grab a Jerome Ford, who I think we're going to talk about a little more later. You couldn't grab some of these other hot ticket waiver guys. Eli Mitchell might be a guy to plug in there in a pinch. He's not anybody I'm thrilled to start, but
Eli Mitchell or Khalil Herbert. Who are you taking?
Gosh, I'm probably still starting Khalil Herbert, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but he's an RB1 in that offense. I'll start an RB1 before I start a guy that might only play a half.
Yeah,
I won't love it.
Eli Mitchell. I don't. I would probably drop Herbert at this point. The Bears are a mess. MVP Fields is just not MVPing.
Yeah, at least DJ Moore had a good game last week, right? 6 for 105 or somewhere in that neighborhood.
He's a guy that what could have been if he was in the right offense.
Yeah, so. I agree.
Yeah.
All right.
I think if you're in a redraft league and you're in a pinch, I just think that could be a sneaky play.
I like that. I'll give Brandon his flowers if he hits on that one. That's a nice little call right there. Not a lot going on. Somebody had asked in the chat or on our Facebook post earlier. I think I saw somebody ask, at what point do we give up on George Kittle as a tight end one? What do you guys think about, since the 49ers are playing tomorrow? What's your thoughts on George Kittle compared to other tight ends in the league?
That was our good friend Cody Kaglick, also known as Cool Cody.
That's right.
I don't even consider him a tight end one. He's somebody that I always let somebody else get. I don't even consider drafting him, only because where he gets drafted at. He's a better NFL tight end than he is a fantasy tight end. The Niners don't really want him to receive. He can do it. He's capable of doing it, but Kyle Shanahan's offense doesn't want him to do that. He's to me, he's a TE2. He's going to pop off every now and then. He's going to make the plays that he has to make, but that offense doesn't involve him.
Yeah.
So fantasy related, he's not even in my consideration.
And with tight ends, I think you need those red zone opportunities. He's only had one within the first 2 weeks, and between CMC and Debo and what they have offensively for weapons, I don't see the need for him to get a ton of targets in the red zone. So we've seen it this year with tight ends. The scoring is really falling off, and if they don't get those touchdowns, then it doesn't look like they're scoring. So I don't see that happen with him.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't like Kittle. I've never really liked Kittle. I just like you said, I think he's a better pro tight end than he actually is a fantasy tight end. Here's some numbers for you. Tight ends that have the same amount of points, fantasy points through 2 weeks or more than George Kittle. Njoku out of Cleveland, Gerald Everett, Tyler Higbee, Musgrave, Kelsey, obviously, Smythe, Parham, Noah Gray, Ferguson out of Dallas. And I'll give you this one, same amount of points as George Kittle right now. New York Jets tight end, Tyler Conklin. There you go, Brandon. There's your Tyler Conklin plug for the night.
I'm starting Tyler Conklin over George Kittle.
Well, you're losing in the tight end category if you're starting Tyler Conklin. That's all there is to that one. So that's a Thursday night game. Let's jump into another topic. We've had a lot of action in the past couple of days. We saw that really, really nasty injury by Nick Chubb on Monday Night Football. Probably the most disgusting knee injury I've seen since, I don't know, Teddy Bridgewater or Alex Smith. I don't know. It was pretty ugly. But a little bit of shakeup there. Jerome Ford steps in dominates the rest of that game. I shouldn't say dominates, but he looked very, very strong. And now out of nowhere, Cleveland decides in the end to end up re-signing Kareem Hunt. So a little bit of movement going on in that backfield. Where are we at post Nick Chubb injury on the Cleveland backfield?
Oh, I am a huge Jerome Ford fan. The Kareem Hunt signing doesn't mean anything to me. If the Cleveland Browns thought Kareem Hunt was a better running back than Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt would have been on the roster to start this season. Jerome Ford is the guy. He's the lead back there. What this is saying is that they're not impressed with Pierre Strong Jr., who got a lot of offseason hype this year. But I'm starting Jerome Ford with a ton of confidence. I saw a lot of common questions were like, how much money do I spend on Jerome Ford in your free agent bidding? I do 65%. I'm fortunate enough to, I didn't do redraft this year in all my dynasty leagues. I checked out, I had him in 7 of 12. He's a guy I was super high on. And the only reason I didn't have him in a higher percentage is because I thought there was going to be one more year of a buying window. But that injury to Chubb was pretty gross. And I think Ford's time's now. If you're disgusting like me and you watch too much college football, you remember Jerome Ford from Cincinnati, and he was an absolute dog. He had receiving chops. He's going to play on third down. He's got third down potential to be a bell cow. He runs really tough. He runs between tackles. He's got good vision. I'm super excited to see this kid run.
Yeah, he's going to be a fun one. I splurged. So I'm in a really disgusting full-on rebuild of a dynasty orphan team from a year ago or so. I spent 100% of my remaining free agent acquisition bucks to acquire Jerome Ford. It was like 140 of my 200.
Shame on your league if it's a dynasty league that guy was even available. He was a target of mine. He wouldn't have been there if I was in it.
Yeah. So I grabbed him, and I don't know if he'll be a long-term option at running back in a rebuild. You're not really looking at running backs right now. I'm still a couple of years away, so I'm probably going to wait for him to have a good game or two, and then probably just try to flip him if I can to a running back needy team that's dealing with other injuries. So, I actually talking about that. We'll talk about a guy that kind of had a really nice start real quick. We'll circle back to Jerome Ford, but talking about flipping players. I actually just flipped Brian Robinson today for a 2024 first in my dynasty league also. Real good start to the season, bunch of injuries happening, always paying attention what teams are, 2-0 or 1-1, lost an important running back. Maybe I got somebody on my roster that I can flip. So that's something I'm always paying attention to. I don't know if you guys are looking out for stuff like that also.
Yeah. Brian Robinson to me is a guy I don't really care about. If I have him even in a redraft, I think I'm looking to sell high. I'm not too impressed with the Washington offense outside of having maybe Dotson or Scary Terry. Or in like a tight end premium league, maybe if in a deep roster, I'll have Logan Thomas.
Yeah.
But I think that's a great trade. If you have Brian Robinson, I'd be looking to flip him right now.
Yeah,
a huge game, and he might have a couple here and there again, but he's just not a guy that I'm going to worry about. It's kind of how I felt about Dameon Pierce last year, and he continuously proved me wrong. And now this year, here he is flopping.
Yep, absolutely. We'll circle back. Brandon, share with me what do you think on Jerome Ford, and then hit me with your opinions on Brian Robinson too.
Yeah, I think dynasty-wise, Adam is on the right. Like, I trust a lot of what he says for dynasty stuff because that's his area, right? But if you're in a redraft, I think it's tough to jump on the Jerome Ford train right now. They go into a tough matchup with the Titans, best rush defense against fantasy backs in the league. For me personally, in a redraft, I'm giving it one more week just to kind of see what they do in that. realm. In Dynasty, though.
So let me make sure I understand this. You like Jerome Ford, but you don't like to start him this week against Tennessee.
Yeah, I think your window of opportunity for waiver wire pickups is larger in a redraft league than it is in Dynasty, right? Because these guys are picking up guys that they see like, someone might have Tyjae Spears is a good example, has a good start to the season. You were talking about like the number of snaps he got versus Derrick Henry. And might there be something there? Guys are snapping him up in Dynasty like that to get him deeper in the roster. Devy for sure. If they're not drafted already, but in a redraft, you kind of have your guys, and you only have so much bench room, and you got to be aware of bye weeks. You got to be aware of injuries that are happening with guys. And for example, in my redraft, my team, I have Gibbs and Josh Jacobs. I don't really want to drop either one of those guys for. I have Swift as my third kind of flex and backup back. So I don't really want to drop any of those guys for a Jerome Ford right now. Swift, I think, could, have some room to do some good things. Josh Jacobs, really a sluggish start. He might be a guy I look to trade, this year, depending on where things are headed. I was worried about his season, but yeah. And the waiver wire will still be there next week. For the most part, somebody that had Nick Chubb might go out and grab him, but it's that matchup scares me for him, and I'm just curious to see Kareem Hunt. There's a lot of storyline there, Adam said. I think a lot of people are thinking that Kareem Hunt's going to come in and be the guy because he was there, but like you said, if they thought he was the guy, they would have signed him and kept him in the backfield. So yeah, lots to go there. I do like Jerome Ford. I think it really depends on your situation. I think in redraft you can give it a little bit more time. And then Brian Robinson, another really similar kind of situation. I think in redraft, I really don't care about him a ton. But that offense is clicking right now with Sam Howell's in the top 12 for QBs. They're not. On paper, they didn't stand out, right? But by the numbers so far, they're actually kind of performing pretty well. So he could be a guy. He had a good. I don't remember what he did last year. He's the guy that got shot in the leg and came back and actually had a good end of the year. He's kind of always stood out to me, and he's not I think he's a good fantasy back, but he doesn't get like the receptions and things like that. So I think you did the right. I think in a dynasty, if you can. Yeah, he's having a good start to the season. Bust him off and pick up a draft pick as you're rebuilding. That's 100%. But in redraft, that could be the guy that makes a difference on your team to helping you win the championship, right? Because you got him super late, probably. I don't even know what his ADP was, but he's gonna, that's a value pick for you. So
sure.
A little bit different dynamic to the two different types, but that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Last year, Brian Robinson finished 43rd in standard PPR scoring at the running back position. 205 carries, 797 yards, only 2 touchdowns, 9 catches, 60 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. So he miss some time.
I think he missed half the season.
That was in 12 games. That was the stat line I just gave you was in 12 games. So but I do know he got some love. I know Washington likes him. He's going to be the RB1. He's getting the majority of the touches over there. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. I'll say this too. We talked in the first episode, we talked about who our RB1 and wide receiver ones were. If I remember correctly, Brandon, you picked Josh Jacobs, right?
Yep, I did.
Not looking so good. I picked Nick Chubb. So obviously, I don't know if he'll run for another yard in his career or not. So I'm struggling there. So our running back picks aren't looking too hot.
Who did I pick?
At the moment.
I think you had
Eckler?
Barkley. Oh yeah, you had Eckler.
Yeah, you did. I think that's right. Which isn't. I mean, obviously he was hurt week 1.
He'll be fine.
Injuries all over the place. Our Lions certainly subject of plenty of injury talk, unfortunately, both on offense and defense. But we're here to talk about fantasy, not talk about our Detroit Lions. So David Montgomery has looked fantastic through the first couple of weeks, through the first game and 3 quarters, because he didn't play the 4th quarter against Seattle. With a deep thigh bruise is what it sounds like, day to day, possibly week to week. It looks like David Montgomery might miss a couple of games. What do we think of the Detroit backfield? Brandon, if you want to go first on this one, the Detroit backfield, is Gibbs a must start with Montgomery out? Is Craig Reynolds a play? Where are you at?
Yeah, so I've made this mistake last week, and Aaron Jones was out, and I went with AJ Dillon as kind of my he's going to score points because the running back's out. And I think it's common to make this mistake. Craig Reynolds is like one of the most picked up players right now. I actually see like Josh Reynolds being the guy that stands out from the week, someone in the passing game. Because Gibbs is going to be, I think they're going to let him loose. But Craig Reynolds is that back that fits Montgomery's profile better, right? Gibbs is more the receiver and coming out of the backfield. So do they change the game plan, or will they stick Gibbs in there? I don't know. I think it's going to be more that they change the game plan to go more the passing route and focus there. I've been burned on it so many times where I look at that injury, I go out and get that guy's backup because I think he's going to come in and he doesn't. It's just not the same player, right? And Craig Reynolds is nowhere near the level of David Montgomery, right? I don't think he's going to run the same and pick up the same yardage and command the game like Montgomery does when he's running through. So Gibbs, I have him as a starter already, just because of the amount of balls he catches out of the backfield. He's going to get me my consistent points. And then I like Josh Reynolds in the passing game for the Lions.
All right, liking Josh Reynolds. So you're staying away from Craig Reynolds, and you like the Gibbs play.
Yep.
All right, Adam, what about you? How are we feeling about the Detroit offense with the injuries, David Montgomery, so on and so forth?
The offense as a whole, I don't like Craig Reynolds. I thought that he was pretty terrible last year. He ran really hard in 2021, but last year he was just a plotter. He just ran into contact, and he didn't have the strength anymore to break those tackles. Who I'm more interested in is Bam Knight, who they just signed up from the practice squad. That was he had a kind of roller coaster season with the Jets last year. He started off with a bam, and then he just terrible. Fizzled out. But I think he's a perfect type of runner for Detroit's offense and behind that offensive line. So to me, I'm not even considering Craig Reynolds at all. As far as the passing game, Josh Reynolds proved that he is that W2 until maybe J-Mo comes back. He's a big body receiver. Goff has a history with him. He knows where to go. Who knows how Amon-Ra is going to play. If Amon-Ra is out and Josh Reynolds demands the coverage from the number one cornerback, that could spell a lot of trouble for him. And I would think Sam Laporta would step up huge in that scenario. And maybe Gibbs gets involved. But who am I starting on that offense? I would start if St. Brown's playing, I'm starting Josh Reynolds with a high confidence for a touchdown, and Laporta's a must start now too. And as far as the running backs, I can't with confidence tell you to start Gibbs. He looked really tough against Kansas City, but against Seattle, he looked pretty average. So
right on.
Yeah, I think it's game plan though. They did not game plan well against the Seahawks, and that's more football talk than the fantasy talk. But I just didn't think they played well overall.
Yeah, right on. I'm with you guys. I'm okay with the Gibbs play. I don't hate it. I'd like to have better options at the running back position than Gibbs to put in the starting lineup. Loving David Montgomery, obviously getting all the goal line work when he's in.
He's looked great.
He has. He's looked awesome. And from an NFL perspective and from a fantasy perspective, pretty comfortable starting a guy that is probably going to get a touchdown every week and 60, 70 yards, right? Nothing wrong with that at all. All right. So we'll move on to the next injury. We'll talk about an ex-Detroit Lion, now a New Orleans Saint. Jamal Williams goes down with some hamstring problems. We got a couple of guys we can talk about in the New Orleans backfield. Tony Jones in all MFL leagues, second most player added next to Jerome Ford. Tony Jones is a running back, or is there somebody else in that backfield that you like? I'll start with you on this one, Adam.
Well, I'm going to avoid it. And if we're looking at MFL, we're probably talking about that's dynasty related. Yeah. And the reason he's being added so frequently is because he sucks and he's not on dynasty rosters. He did score 2 touchdowns. He didn't look very good. They were playing the Panthers. They were in really good scenarios and situations that got him 2 touchdowns. I happened to be able to watch that game, and I'm not impressed with Tony Jones. I wasn't the last time he was fantasy relevant. For redrafts, though, and in Dynasty, obviously this doesn't equate, but in Dynasty, I'm more interested in what Kendre Miller, the TCU guy, is going to look like. He's supposed to be playing this week.
Yep.
I'm super high on him. Dynasty community, you guys are all high on him. So for your redraft guys, I would really chill out on the Tony Jones, and I would go look at Miller. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but if Miller's available in your ESPN leagues and your Yahoo leagues, I would scoop him up and watch that situation.
I agree completely there. Tony Jones is probably already picked up in most of your leagues, whether redraft or dynasty. Looking at Sleeper, Tony Jones is the third most added player off of waivers this week, behind only Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford. So Tony Jones is already getting added out there. Waivers mostly processed earlier today, right? We're filming on a Wednesday right now. I love the Kendre Miller ad right now. Try and get proactive. Go ahead and grab him now as a free agent. Hold him, see if he does something good this week, and you're gonna get a lot of angry owners in your league mad that you had the foresight to go grab Kendre Miller in advance. I love the Kendre Miller play.
Yep.
Not a fan of Tony Jones either. Tony Jones, he got a couple 2 touchdowns, but his yards per carry was under 3 yards per carry. I don't care who you are. If you're scoring the football, that's fine. But under 3 yards per carry, they're going to find somebody else to run the rock. And I think we're going to see them test Kendre Miller this weekend.
Tony Jones is a desperation play.
Yeah, I agree. Adam, where are you at on Brandon, excuse me, where are you at on the New Orleans backfield?
Yeah, see, I have a wild card, and before I say it, I know that you're gonna, you both are gonna
Taysom Hill.
jump on me.
Tyler Conklin cannot play running back for the Saints.
I know, but let me justify it after I tell you. But yes, Adam got Taysom Hill. Dude, the dude is a Swiss Army knife of offense, and if you just hearing you guys talk about, like, okay, from the dynasty perspective, I totally understand, grabbing one of the other two guys, but week 4, you have Kamara coming back, or week 5. Is he suspended first 4 weeks, or is he coming back week 4?
I think it's 3 weeks for the suspension, returning week 4.
So he's out, right? He's not playing the next couple of weeks. You have Jamal went out. Now you have these two guys. Is Tony Jones a rookie? Sorry,
I think he's like
on him
40.
All right, so
he's 25 years old,
right,
undrafted, out of Notre Dame.
I mean, I'm not ashamed to say I don't really know much about him. So when he came in the game, it was a bit surprising.
Neither
but
do
when
Saints fans, so don't worry about it.
But Taysom Hill last game came in and filled into the backfield, 9 carries, 75 yards. He's going to catch some balls at the tight end position. They run that wildcat formation with him, direct QB snap plays. He's going to get carries, and I do think he sneaks in for the end zone. And I think the same principle applies to what I was talking about with injuries before. You go out and grab the next guy you think's in line, and then he comes out and the game plan is completely different, because if you're thinking it, so is the other team's coaches, right? So they adjust a little bit. And I think he's a sneaky play here because he can fill that in. He's a veteran of the offense. He knows it. He's not going to get all the carries in the backfield, right? They might run Kendre Miller. They might run the other guys that they have, but he's going to get his carries, and he does make the most out of him. The dude's athletic as heck. Like, he's kind of undervalued, in my opinion. I think
you can't say hack on this podcast.
I know, whatever. But the dude, he's a solid option. I think not a lot of people are going to have him in redraft, right? When you're just picking up that guy for the one or 2 weeks, I think I would give him a look, just because of what I saw last game.
Oh,
we lost Allan.
So we lost Al, and we'll have to try to pick that up, but we'll just go on with us,
splice it together.
And so Brandon, Al's back now, and hey, buddy.
How much I hated your Taysom Hill take. I just left the studio.
I wanted to. I'd rather go to bed than listen to Taysom Hill talk.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. All right. Enough on the Saints. Some more action throughout the NFL. Cam Akers traded to the Vikings. Cam Akers, is he the play in Minnesota now? Are you hanging on to Alexander Madison? How do we like the Cam Akers move to Minnesota?
I don't care.
So you're that indifferent on it.
Alexander Madison, I think I wrote about it. I hope I did. He's just a mid guy. He runs into people. I think I actually talked about it in our last podcast. He's not good. He's taking advantage of bad defenses. He plays when he's the center of attention. He's not going to surprise anybody. He's very okay. And so how Minnesota decided to handle that was just get another very okay running back and add him to the backfield. Cam Akers is probably a little bit better than Madison, but let's be honest here. Minnesota is about Kirk. Kirk's going to throw to Jefferson. He's going to throw to Addison. And KJ Osborne's going to surprise you, and he's going to throw to Hockenson. Who cares about the running backs? Don't get excited about Cam Akers to Minnesota. He's going to be average. Madison's going to be average. Every now and then, one of them might have a 2-touchdown game, and then you guys are all going to pop off and be like, "Oh, I need this guy." But then the next week they're going to run for 15 carries for 14 yards.
Yeah, because you're going to forget that Minnesota's defense can't stop anybody, and they're going to throw the ball 45 times a game.
Yeah, I don't care at all. I don't care about any other. The two free agent running back signings today, well, the signing and then the trade mean nothing to me. They're just moves to get the fantasy community talking.
Yeah. And say Al, you made the comparison of the Chiefs to the early 2000 Patriots
and the receiver room,
and the crazy thing about the Vikings, and as Lions fans, we've seen this up close. I feel like this is a repeat of Lions years with Stafford and Kirk Cousins being Stafford, and they having the one good receiver, no real running backs, and it's just all out air assault because our defense couldn't stop anybody. It just reeks of that old Lions from not too long ago, but fairly recently. But Kirk Cousins is shocking everybody right at number one, and we said going into it the guy's gonna put up points because he's got Justin Jefferson and he's got a horrible defense. So it's very similar to me. So Adam, I'm not paying attention to that running back situation there because I think that they're going to be so far behind in games. They're just going to be passing and too many offensive weapons with Kirk Cousins to go after. So
right on. So not much interest in Cam Akers or Alexander Madison. Surprisingly, Kyren Williams over with the Rams, who just traded Cam Akers. Kyren Williams looking absolutely fantastic overall fantasy-wise. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's the number 2 overall running back in terms of fantasy points right now. So that is in just standard PPR leagues. So that is very interesting to me. What do you guys take of the Kyren Williams? Is he a must start right now in your lineups?
Yeah, probably. I mean, the Rams look like they're back. Stafford looks healthy. I think the Rams are back, and you want to start a Sean McVay offense. You want to start their players. So, yeah, absolutely. I have 0 shares of Kyren Williams. I've had, and I dropped them, and, I'm upset about it. But start that kid.
All right. So let me ask you this, Brandon, you go first. Give me a real quick yes or no answer. Ramondre Stevenson, highly drafted running back, a lot of hype coming into this season. Has had an okay start, hasn't had a great start. Kyren Williams, on the flip side, has had a great start. Are you benching Ramondre Stevenson to start Kyren Williams, yes or no?
No.
All right, still going with Stevenson. Adam, going with Ramondre or Kyren right now?
Kyren.
Going with Kyren, going with the young kid.
Better offense.
Right. Yeah, I won't disagree. What offense is he playing in again? He's with the Rams. There's somebody else in that offense that's pretty good right now too, I think.
Yeah, Tutu Atwell.
Get out of here. Puka Nacua, 2 games played, 35 targets, 25 catches.
That's insane.
It is outrageous, right? He's the number 2 overall PPR wide receiver right now.
So for Dynasty, what do you do? Our audience is probably redraft. What do you do with Puka? Are you riding him out?
I mean, if I'm talking redraft, you kind of have to, right? Nobody's giving you a stud for a guy that. I mean, I don't think anybody. Maybe they
I don't
are.
know.
I don't. Yeah,
I've seen posts on websites asking, should I trade? I got offered Garrett Wilson for Puka in a redraft. Do you do that?
I'm probably that's tough. I'm taking Garrett. I'm taking Garrett Wilson. Listen, I'm the biggest Puka Nacua truther that you're going to find on the internet right now. But the reality is Cooper Kupp's going to come back, and 25 targets, 10 targets. That's going to go away when Cooper Kupp comes back. Now that doesn't mean that he's just not going to get targets anymore, right? If he still gets 7, 8 to 10 targets, like that's pretty damn good, right? Yeah, they're going to have to throw the ball. They trust Stafford to throw the ball. So he's still going to be relevant. Like I said before, I do believe he's the wide receiver 2 when Cooper Kupp comes back. And that's an offense that can support a wide receiver 2. So I don't hate him. If you can capitalize on his value right now, like I know we talked offline a little bit. I've got a pending offer in one of my in that dynasty rebuild for Puka Nacua and Evan Ingram, and they're offering me a 2024 first and a 2024 second. I'm really hard pressed not to hit accept by the time we end this podcast. That's probably going to happen.
Yeah. I in dynasties, I'm keeping him. In redrafts, I'm getting rid of him.
Yeah.
Because I disagree with you heavily that he's going to still be relevant because he is Cooper Kupp's role right now in the offense. And when he comes back, he's not just going to take over Tutu because Tutu's having a great year so far. So Tutu's that receiver, and the way they run and the way they are positioned in the game plan are different. So you're not gonna have 2 Cooper Kupps and running the same routes, in the plays. It's that like replace game, right? So I think he's still going to be he'll be in top 3. He replaces Van Jefferson for sure, but I think it's going underestimated on what Tutu is doing because he is having a solid year as the wide receiver too. So he doesn't just come in and replace him. I think it does end up falling off pretty significantly. So I'm looking. I hope he has a great week next week. I picked him up last week and sat him on the bench. I'm going to start him this week, and I hope he has a great week. And then I'm trading him because I'm like, that's prime. If I can get Garrett Wilson in a redraft league, I'm 100% taking that because he's not. I'll eat my words if he does it all year long. I don't see it happening.
I can't wait to tell Brandon how wrong he is on this. It's going to be the best.
It's going to be the sole reason. Chug a beer on the cast.
I'll chug a beer if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you say would be a successful season for a 5th round pick out of BYU that primarily went undrafted in redraft leagues? What would you say is a successful season, receptions and yards?
So I just want to say I would say he's already exceeded expectations in his first 2 weeks. So it's tough. It's hypothetical too and subjective to the person, but I'm just saying it's going to drop. It's going to drop off. He's not going to be. He'll put up. Let's say he'll average less than 10 points a week once Kupp comes back.
All right. So you don't think that he will get to 70 catches as a rookie? That's a pretty big number. That's more than Garrett Wilson had last year.
I don't see it. I see Kupp is going to eat everything when he comes back. And again, Kupp gets injured. Yes, he'll get there. So, right. But if the situation plays out where Kupp comes back and he's the guy, Puka's not getting there.
All right. So 70 catches is the number. If he gets to 70 catches, Brandon, you have to chug a beer on air during a podcast.
And if Kupp gets hurt and he still doesn't get to 70, you have to chug a 40 ounce.
That's bold, but I'm in. All right, you got yourself a deal. Loving the Puka. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to go hit accept on that trade offer here in just a minute. I'll take the 2024 first and second for a 30-year-old tight end and Puka Nacua, who's going to be the wide receiver too. So, all right, that kind of covers the Rams. So we talked a little bit about Kendre Miller, who's a rookie running back out of TCU, New Orleans Saints. Let's talk about some other rookies to keep an eye on that you could potentially get ahead of the curve on with respect to like waiver wire pickups in the next couple of weeks. Is there anybody that you're keeping your eye on that you might go grab before the games this weekend, just to kind of have a little bit of foresight into that situation? Who are you keeping an eye on right now?
Michael Wilson from the Cardinals for me. I think that wide receiver room is wide open. You got Hollywood Brown as kind of that ace over there, but Michael Wilson's been slowly being integrated. He's kind of being overshadowed because this is a really good rookie class for fantasy. You got Addison balling out, and you got Puka balling out, and then Jackson Smith and Jigma's got his draft pedigree, and he's looking okay. But I like Michael Wilson. I think that he could be a guy that next week, this time, we're talking about he's your must-add for your waiver priority. I know a lot of other podcasts and experts have been telling you to go and grab Ertz because he's getting all these targets, but I think you're going to start seeing more and more Michael Wilson involvement in the Arizona Cardinals offense. So he's somebody that I have my eye on, and somebody I think everybody that's listening should pay attention to.
Yeah, I do like the Ertz play at tight end. I know we talked about him a little bit last episode. I think episode 1 or 2, we talked about Ertz and the targets that he's getting. But I'm with you on Michael Wilson. Before I talk about Michael Wilson, I'll let Brandon take the floor on that one. Brandon, you got any opinions on Michael Wilson here?
No, not on Michael Wilson.
Nothing really on that one. Michael Wilson was a guy I targeted in almost every single one of my dynasty leagues, similar to that of Puka Nacua. Admittedly, I was taking Michael Wilson before I was taking Puka Nacua. Usually, like early 4th round is where I was looking at taking Michael Wilson. 6'2", 215, big frame body, Stanford guy, ran like a 4.5. I don't love all the wide receivers in Arizona, like you mentioned. Like Rondale Moore is fine, kind of a gadget guy. Hollywood Brown's pretty good. I like Michael Wilson a lot. I feel like he probably needs a quarterback to be, like any wide receiver, you need a quarterback to be successful. Not having Kyler Murray there right now hurts. But I'm a big fan of the Michael Wilson play as a young guy to keep an eye on. Another one that I like a lot, obviously CJ Stroud has been spinning the ball really, really well. They're letting him unleash the ball, getting a lot of attempts in. I kind of like Tank Dell as another like quiet pick. I think he had a nice week this week. What are your thoughts on Tank Dell?
I mean, I'll talk on him. I like him, dude. He's getting involved, and how crazy is it that maybe the worst wide receiver room in all the NFL has 3 guys that can be in your starting lineup?
Talking about who? Nico Collins, yep. Bobby Trees, right? Robert Woods, and then you're talking about Tank Dell as the 3rd one.
Yeah, so like I feel like it's not really being mentioned too much. Is that CJ Stroud is throwing the ball? They're letting him air it out. You could start any 3 of those guys, and you're gonna have you're probably gonna get anywhere from 10 to 15 points out of all 3 of them.
Yep.
That's a really good spot. I like Tank Dell going forward. CJ Stroud apparently demanded that they draft him, so obviously he likes him, and you have Tank Dell's available in your leagues too. I definitely would be looking to grab Tank Dell. I would drop like some guys. So who are some guys that people in redrafts are looking to drop right now? Odell Beckham, drop him immediately. Pick up Tank Dell or Michael Wilson. I can't think of anybody else that people are looking to drop. Because I don't play redraft, so I don't think about it.
Yeah. That's fair. Any run, if I had a late running back depth play as like a backup or a handcuff, I'm probably cutting a low tier handcuff. Like I'm not cutting like a Tyler Algier probably for him, because you could probably argue that he's not just a handcuff anymore. Getting a lot of goal line carries. But any of those like low tier handcuffs that I had sitting at the bottom of my roster, Tank Dell's a guy that that's kind of what I use the bottom of my roster for in a lot of redraft leagues, is to say, hey, I might cycle guys in and out of there and just see if somebody pops off. And if somebody pops off, maybe I can flip them for some value.
So Brandon, how do you think about this? Because I know you're a big believer in this one guy, and I don't know how you feel about Tank Dell or Michael Wilson, but it's another rookie wide receiver. And how do you feel about those two versus Jayden Reed?
Gosh, yeah, I was just gonna, that's who I was going to talk about. Yeah, Jayden Reed's huge for me. So I was just looking at this. The ESPN leagues for redraft, he's only rostered in 17.4% of teams.
Wow.
Which I think is insanely low. Like, even for redraft, where I understand he's a rookie, he's, they're waiting to see what he's going to do. I had the stats and I lost my screen. He had the
Speak from
the red zone attempts. I mean, the last game he scored the 2 touchdowns, but that wide receiver group last year struggled with Rodgers. Jordan Love's come out kind of out of zone. And that offense has been pretty strong. Obviously, Aaron Jones out of the lineup, that scoring goes somewhere else, and Jayden Reed got the 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to have great games all season long, and I think he's a solid pickup in a redraft. Now, alternatively, in that same ESPN redraft, JSN is rostered in 81.6% of teams.
Wow.
And the guy, and he's only scored 12 points.
What about when Christian Watson comes back? What do you think that does to Jayden Reed?
I think it spreads it out more, but I think that he is going to be strong. I think he's better than Dobbs. I think he's going to be go-to, and he's developing the rapport. I think he's also developing the rapport with Jordan Love because he's been in the lineup and the other two haven't. So he's already got that, and he's gaining the experience on the field. I don't know anything about their injuries. I know they were hamstrings, which linger for both Watson and Dobbs, and it could be actually Aaron Jones is saying they're all hamstrings. So that's the only knock I had on Jayden Reed was he's going into a team with already 2 young receivers. But Watson is that deep threat, like fast guy, right? He's their big receiver. Jayden Reed.
I don't like Watson.
I don't like him either. I think he drops a lot of balls. From what I
don't
saw
think that he's going to have that same. He's got Jordan Love is there now, not Aaron Rodgers, and I think Jordan Love spent a lot of last year working with the backups, and that was Romeo Dobbs, and then this year you got Jayden Reed, and we're all from Michigan. Probably most of our listeners are from Michigan, so we're familiar with Jayden Reed. He was good. He's undersized, but you can't out-muscle him. You can't out-man him. He's a very physical receiver, and he's just a ball player. Like, Jayden Reed's he's gonna have a nice career. He's never gonna be your Jefferson or your Chase or your Tyreek, but Reed can play football.
I don't know about you. It might be dating ourselves a little bit, but I think we talked about this when he was at State. Like, he reminds me of one of my all-time favorite players, and Johnny Morton. Like, he's just gonna go out and grab balls and bust through the middle and run slants and just take those hits and get up and go. And that's who he reminds me of. I think he's gonna be a stud in Green Bay. I think he's gonna end up with a lot of receptions and for PPR leagues because he's gonna run those shorter routes over time. It might not happen right away, but 12.5% rostered or whatever, 17% rostered in ESPN redraft leagues after he just scored 2 touchdowns, and people have been talking about him all year. To me, that's crazy how he's not on more rosters.
Yeah, I like Jayden Reed a lot. I don't love the yards per target right now. So 9.6 in game 1. Game 2 it was 4.63. That tells me he is catching the ball underneath quite a bit. I would argue that Christian Watson might actually open the field up for Jayden Reed a little bit more, right? I don't know yet if Jordan Love is really going to air the ball out. Jordan Love's got one of the lowest air yards in the league right now. He's actually performing pretty well. One of the top performing quarterbacks from a fantasy perspective. Air yards are not very high. If Christian Watson
Jayden Reed's helping him perform well.
Absolutely. When Christian Watson comes back and starts to stretch the field, I could actually see Jayden Reed being more successful in that offense than he is right now, because Watson could open up those defenses a little bit.
Yep.
Good point.
Yep. I like the Jayden Reed play a lot. Rostered in a surprisingly low number of leagues. I don't disagree there. I'm picking up Jayden Reed if I can.
If you're in an ESPN redraft league, go get him. Like, that's ridiculous.
Would you drop Deontay Johnson for Jayden Reed?
In a redraft league?
Yeah.
Isn't Deontay, he's on the IR, right?
Wow, he ain't that hurt.
I'm not that pressed to add Jayden Reed. Deontay Johnson still has some value in itself. I don't like Deontay Johnson a lot, but I don't know that I like Jayden Reed.
How do you like that Steelers offense?
I don't. We haven't even talked about Najee Harris's disappointment so far. I mean, we could have an entire episode just on disappointing fantasy players right now. Najee Harris would be right up at the top, along with anybody in a Bengals uniform.
Yep.
Right. Probably a good topic to talk about next is the Bengals offense. What the hell is going on? I know Joe Burrow's got the calf issue, so now Jamar Chase has been pretty much non-existent. What do you guys think of the Bengals offense?
So if you've invested in the Bengals offense at this point, you have to roll with them. So we got a couple messages today about what to do with Burrow, and you hold him, you ride him. You put that pedigree in him, you put that draft capital in him, just like an NFL franchise, right? Like if you draft a first-round quarterback, you're rolling with that guy until he burns you. You're going to roll with him. You're not going to get any fair value back for him. I think the Bengals probably rushed him back too quick, and we're all seeing how that hurts. So if I'm a Burrow owner in a redraft league, I'm not going to panic about my QB1. I'm going to be aggressive for my QB2. I'm going to hit the waiver wire hard. If it's a smaller league and you can stream quarterback to quarterback week by week based on matchups, I'm going to do that. Or if I can solidify a stronger QB2 like Jordan Love or Russell Wilson, or Goff, if he's still considered QB2, like I'd be thrilled. I'd be over the moon. So I would try to look to move and and strengthen my QB2 situation until Burrow's ready. And then when Burrow's ready, you flip your strong QB2 and maybe upgrade, do a 2-for-1, overpay, be aggressive, go get yourself an upgraded wide receiver, running back 2 or a tight end.
Yeah. What do you think? So going into this week, so there was some news that came out about Burrow a little while ago, earlier today, that actually said that he's feeling a lot better heading into week 3. They're going up against the Rams, which is generally pretty friendly against quarterbacks. Are you sitting Burrow this week, or are you still rolling him out there this week? Assuming he plays.
I was saying that you're in that predicament.
Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday night. Like you have to follow it super close. I think that's a decision you're making Sunday morning on what you're going to do, and you might not even be able to do that if you have to get a quarterback, right? If you drafted Burrow, you might not have taken a backup, and you got to go to the waiver wire. So
do you go grab Jake Browning in case Burrow doesn't play Monday night?
I don't like that at all. I'm sure you can get a better backup, but another QB.
Only in a desperation super flex league would I consider that.
Yeah.
In one of my super flex leagues, I just got Dobbs. I just bid a 69% because it's a cool number on Dobbs to be my QB2, just so that I have him start. I'm going to start him this week.
Okay.
But I get to pair him with Josh Allen, so I can be aggressive. You know, it's a loaded roster, so I was going to make an aggressive move for that quarterback. I got Burrow, Allen, Barkley, Eckler. They're just hurt all over the place. But so I could be aggressive because when my roster gets healthy, I'm strong. But I'm not starting him. I'm going to start Dobbs because Monday night games suck, man.
You're sitting Burrow for Josh Dobbs out of Arizona right now.
Only because Burrow plays on Monday.
Okay, that's fair. So let's talk about the effect that the Burrow injury seems to be having on Jamar Chase, because Jamar Chase 2 weeks in, 9.1 and then 8.1 points weeks 1 and 2 in standard PPR formats. Obviously not moving the needle. Obviously a guy that a lot of people thought was going to be The wide, possibly Adam, isn't this who you picked for the wide receiver one, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Well, my running back one died, so we at least got to talk about your chase concerns.
I'm with Adam on like not overreacting this early. It's still week 2. The Bengals are still the Bengals. They've shown you what they can do. And I do think that levels out by the end of the season. And I think that Jamar Chase and Burrow end with solid seasons still.
Well, so far they've showed me that Burrow can barely walk and they don't know how to win football games. Right now, so.
Well, I was going to say, does it suck as an owner, especially in a redraft league when you went out and got those? Yeah, 100%. But I think at that point, to even dynasty or redraft, you drafted those guys so early that at this point you kind of have to ride with them. Nobody's going to trade you for them because their stock is so low. You're not going to get anything out of it. And the upside is there, right? So you got to kind of ride it out. It sucks, but I think that they level out.
Okay, right on. All right, awesome. Anything else you're looking at? What about Mixon? What's your guys' thoughts on Mixon in that backfield for Cincinnati?
I don't know. He's just another guy to me. Yeah. I don't know his numbers, unfortunately. I don't pay attention to him.
Yeah, he's getting 10, 12, 13 points a week. Nothing to write home about. He has not scored a touchdown yet. He's really, realistically speaking, like he's been making up for his lack in the ground game through receptions. Week 1, he caught 3 balls for 17 yards. This past week, 4 balls for 36 yards. So basically half of his fantasy production is coming from receptions and receiving yards. He's not getting it done on the ground, but they're really not giving him an opportunity to. His yard per carry is not terrible. He's north of 4 yards per carry, both week 1 and 2, but he's only getting 13 carries a game. And they're not getting any goal line looks, unfortunately, because that offense just isn't operating really well.
Yeah.
I don't care.
He's one of those consistent guys. I feel like every year in and year out, every week, he's going to put up the 10 points for you. So I think he's a solid, consistent guy. He's gonna do it all year long. But he's never gonna. His ceiling isn't high. That's why people aren't attracted.
He'll have that huge game,
Yeah, like one or two maybe, but
yeah,
he doesn't have the crazy explosive games like Derrick Henry will have or anybody like that. So
yeah, I hear you. All right, awesome. Well, I think that's gonna wrap us up for this evening. We got a maybe not so exciting game tomorrow night with the Giants taking on the 49ers. Keep an eye on basically everybody 49ers. Go to sleep when the Giants have the ball in their hands because you're probably not going to be too excited with what you're seeing there. But that's going to be it for us for episode. I think this is episode 3 for us, right? Episode number 3 in the books. Awesome. The Fantasy Realm presented by Pro Football Debate. You can check them out at profootballdebate.com. If you're watching this, like our page, share our page, comment. If there's any kind of topics you want to see us cover, share that with us. We'd love to start diving into some new content, different themes and things that we can knock out for you guys. Stay engaged on our Facebook page. We had some good questions on, sit or starts, this person or that person. But any assistance you can give with likes, shares, comments, it all helps us with the algorithm within Facebook, within YouTube. So do that. And we look forward to filming again. We'll probably be filming Friday night, gearing up for this weekend's games. We look forward to seeing you guys again here soon. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Absolutely. See you guys. Thank you.